There are many parts of an avalanche forecast. Let's take a look at elevation bands, what they are, and how they can help us make decisions in the winter mountains. Every day, the Northwest Avalanche Center issues a unique avalanche forecast for each of its zones. NWAC uses the North American Public Danger Scale to demonstrate the expected hazard in general terms across these wide areas. On our homepage map, you will find each zone is colored based on the highest danger we expect in that zone over the forecast period. By clicking on the area of the map where you intend to travel, you can find additional information. NWAC uses 3 elevation bands to demonstrate how we expect the avalanche danger to change over vertical space. As you travel, you can use these trends to anticipate how conditions will change as you ascend or descend in the mountains. At NWAC, we use upper, middle, and lower elevations to describe these bands. In this scenario, you'll see that we expect low or generally safe avalanche conditions at lower elevations. However, as you ascend, you can expect the danger to increase. Heightened avalanche conditions are expected at middle elevations, and dangerous avalanche conditions are expected at upper elevations. You can see that we expect a significant change in avalanche danger as you ascend an elevation. Conversely, in this example, we expect dangerous avalanche conditions at all elevations. So while other elements of the avalanche forecast may change as you ascend or descend, we expect the danger to stay generally the same. There are 2 parts to each elevation band. Understanding both will help you identify where you are in the mountains. Our elevation band concepts are based on 2 primary factors: exposure to weather and avalanche terrain characteristics. These concepts are consistent across all of NWAC's forecast zones. We also provide numerical boundaries for each elevation band. These numbers indicate the general bounds of each band within a zone. We use numbers to provide clear and consistent communication to you, the user. Upper elevations are primarily comprised of exposed alpine terrain. While trees may exist, they are often sparse or stunted. In this band, you will feel the full effects of the weather. A wide variety of avalanche terrain exists at upper elevations, everything from small features to very large start zones and paths. Due to the exposed nature of the weather and very large avalanche paths, recreation in this band is typically limited to periods of better weather and higher stability. Middle elevation band is a bit of a transition zone. There's a mix of exposed and sheltered terrain. Ridge lines and the upper extent of this zone may feel quite exposed. However, the farther you are away from ridges or where trees grow larger, conditions may be quite sheltered. Again, a variety of avalanche terrain exists, including small features and large start zones. Where upper elevation bands exist above you, you may also be exposed to the tracks and runouts of very large avalanche paths descending from above. Lower elevation terrain is typically sheltered. Ridgelines and the ability for mature vegetation provides relief from the elements. However, exposed areas do exist. Places like rock outcroppings, the runouts of very large avalanche paths, and meadows can create locally exposed conditions. Avalanche terrain is typically smaller and includes features in smaller paths. You may also be exposed to the tracks and runouts from very large avalanche paths descending from higher elevation terrain. Across all of NWAC's forecast areas, the elevation bands concepts remain the same. However, the numerical values change zone by zone. Remember, nature doesn't change on a line. As you approach the boundary between any of these bands, conditions will often change gradually. These elevation bands help to provide an idea of how we expect the danger to change as you ascend or descend in the mountains. We also provide upper and lower limits to our avalanche forecast. Here in the Northwest, we can have snow from near sea level to 14,411 feet. These limits indicate the general terrain we are considering when producing any day's avalanche forecast. The upper limit indicates the elevation band where we can reliably gather data, track conditions, and routinely forecast. Similarly, the lower limit highlights elevations where recreatable snow exists under normal climatic conditions and where people are engaging with avalanches. In both cases, we may speak to avalanche conditions outside of these bounds when extenuating circumstances dictate. The upper and lower limits indicate the limits of our ability to forecast reliably under most conditions. We use elevation bands to communicate the avalanche danger trends to you, the user. The numbers help provide clear and consistent communication to where you are in the mountains. But remember, nature doesn't change on a line. Expect the danger to change gradually as you near the bounds of any of these elevation bands. The avalanche danger and elevation bands are only part of an avalanche forecast. They are what the avalanche forecaster expects in general terms over wide areas. Ultimately, you assess conditions, you choose terrain, and you manage your own risk.